Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to NPTEL's lecture series on communication skills. This is module number 10, lecture number 1 on oral presentation. Oral presentation is a very formal presentation of speaking with a communicative purpose, mostly business or in academic situation, which is very close to public speaking. In fact, when I am going to talk about oral presentation, sometimes I am going to synonymously treat oral presentation with public speaking skills. The only difference that I make with oral presentation is when I think of public speaking skills, I think of somebody just standing there tall who is already quite trained and efficient and then just addressing the group or a crowd. Whereas in case of oral presentation, the group varies. It need not be a crowd as in public speaking. It can be a small formal group. It can be sometimes an examiner just trying to examine the student's project that was done. The student may be using a PowerPoint presentation. It may be sometimes a business proposal in which one of the employees is asked by the manager or supervisor or a higher authority to present it before some other dignitaries. So most of the times it is formal. It demands certain skills like using a PowerPoint. It demands certain skills like even using a overhead projector. So because of this slight differentiation, we call this oral presentation. Now in this module, basically what will you learn? You will learn to first overcome the fear of public speaking or overcome the fear of presenting before a group. Overcoming fear in general related to public speaking skills. This is the first thing and the foremost thing that I will be focusing on in this lecture of this module. And then once you learn how to overcome fear, you need to develop confidence. This is of course a simultaneous process. So first you will try to overcome your fear and then I'll give tips for developing your confidence in giving a very successful oral presentation, whether it is formal, professional or informal. Now once you know that you have overcome fear and then you have developed confidence, the final step is to become a professional. Now when you become a professional, you almost deliver the same presentation without any mistakes, without any pauses, without any breaks, without any messing up of the slides. So that you try to do it after gaining experience and confidence. So basically we'll try to look at the first aspect of overcoming fear, followed by developing confidence and then trying to become a real professional in giving oral presentation. Now, when I talk about fear and then overcoming fear, many people, if you look at it, for example, if you look at people sitting in canteens, either students or office goers, they are most of the times involved in informal chats. Sometimes there is a person who is actually trying to tell a story, narrate an incident, even an accident that he saw on the way. Now this is all done with lot of gusto, lot of enthusiasm, and then the audience are quite impressed by the way the person is narrating the incident or the story. But if you ask the same person to deliver a formal presentation before a group, the person would turn into a jelly. The person will feel very nervous and the person will try to do everything to run away from the situation. So firstly, if you look at the psychology of people, many people would like to speak effortlessly in informal situations. The fact that they are not going to be caught for any mistakes that they make, and people are not noting their mistakes, and that they are with a very comfortable group, it actually makes them feel very comfortable, and in fact they do not even think about the fact that they are giving a presentation. They just think that they are just chatting, they are sharing something with their friends, they are just enjoying the aspect of communication without any stress. Now, if the same person is asked to come and present before a crowd, why is it that person is afraid of presenting before the crowd? Is what we are going to understand, analyze, and then try to overcome. This is what I mean by overcoming fear. Now, when I say oral presentation, as I said, I am talking about presentation in business context, formal context, where it could be the presentation of a report, it could be the company's annual report, it could be the company's report before the shareholders where they are presenting either their loss or their gain. It could be just about marketing a product, it could be just giving a demo of the product, just demonstrating all the best possible features of the product before the public. It could be just describing a new business proposal before some foreign dignitaries who are interested in setting up a multinational corporation in the country. Now, in all these cases, most of the times nowadays people use a PowerPoint presentation, just like the way I'm doing. I'm actually talking to you, but at the same time I'm using PowerPoint presentation as a very integral part of my lecture. As and when required, I'm looking at it, I'm trying to show something to you using the PowerPoint. So if I have to show some illustration, I have it at my hand, so I don't have to run around. So PowerPoint has a lot of advantages, but then people are also afraid of using PowerPoint. They think it's a very formal kind of device. So using PowerPoint, sometimes using overhead projector. In overhead projector, you just, instead of the PowerPoint slides, you make the same kind of notes on a transparency and put it on the overhead projector, and it is projected to the audience. Sometimes just a blackboard is used, and then a chalk and talk method is used for giving a presentation. Sometimes even just handout or handwritten materials, even those materials are used for giving a presentation. Now, these are the ways in which one can give a presentation: using PowerPoint, using overhead projector, using transparency slides on the overhead projector, using just a blackboard, using handwritten notes, or even without coming to the public without any notes. Even that is possible. We have extempore speech, we have impromptu speech. Now, in all these cases, the underlying point that fear is there before coming and giving the presentation, and fear is something that is actually freezing the person. It's just making a person so nervous. So the first thing that we want to know is, how do we overcome this fear in terms of giving a very effective oral presentation? Now, first one should understand that the greatest fear, not only in an Indian scenario, where mostly, let us say, suppose a person is a Hindi speaking person, he may think that I speak only Hindi, I'm not so good in English, or I didn't have the opportunity to go to English medium schools, I didn't have the opportunity to go to convent educated teachers in schools, so I didn't have the exposure to people who speak good English. So my English is very bad. So because I am from Hindi medium, I am from village, so my background is different. With all this kind of thinking, there is lot of negative chatter in the mind, and the person thinks that those who know English will be able to give a better presentation, especially if the presentation has to be in English. Now, is this fact true? If you look at the book of lists, okay, which is a famous book which lists so many categories. Now, if we look at that book, it says no. Now, and it makes one point clear: it's not only for an Indian Hindi speaker or an Indian Tamilian speaker or an Indian Malayali speaker whose mother tongue is not English, and somebody's mother tongue is English, just like a Britisher or an American or an Australian or a Canadian, the general presumption is that those who speak English as the mother tongue will be able to give wonderful presentation in English. Now, if you look at the book of lists, it says a definite no. What does it say? It says that the greatest fear even for an American is public speaking, delivering something before a group, giving a formal presentation before a crowd. Now, it is one of the greatest fears that is listed on the top, even for a native English speaker like an American. Now, if you look at oral presentation, just to recapitulate what I said at the beginning, it is just a formal act of public speaking with a definitive communicative purpose in mind. Now, in this case, even when public speaking has that slight informality, when it is too formal, people are naturally afraid of it. Now, coming back to the book of lists, which says that the greatest fear is speaking before a group, and this is the number one fear of Americans. Forget Indians. So, as I said, even if a person is not speaking English or a person is speaking excellent English, the fear is same. The fear is a common denominator in both the cases. It's not that somebody is speaking good English that the person is able to present himself better. So, first understand the fact that the fear that comes before giving a presentation has nothing to do with essentially the inhibition that one will have in relation to language or communicative skills. So, it does not matter whether the person is very good in English or bad in English, irrespective of this fact, one is likely to feel that fear. Now, once you know that, know some other interesting facts, like even for American, this is on the top, number 1. Now, what about death? Death is number 7 fear. So, in between they are afraid of certain other things like snake, disease, insects. These are other fears. But the most interesting and even the funny thing is that speaking before a group is the topmost, is the number 1 fear. Now, once you realize that speaking before a group is the number 1 fear, even for a very good speaker in America. So, why should one in India or in any other part of the country should be worried about speaking, especially the fear aspect of speaking in English? So, once you keep that in mind, you realize that, okay, I am with so many others who have the fear. Now, once I realize that I am not the single one on this planet who is suffering from this fear, once you know this, it will be easy for you to build up confidence. Now, before we go to the actual discussion of building up your confidence, let us try to understand what do people fear and why do they fear it. What do people fear? People fear basically humiliation. People fear basically humiliation, then unfamiliarity with the situation, and that something would go wrong when they are giving the presentation. Let us briefly look at these aspects of fear. The first and foremost is humiliation. Humiliation is what? Feeling low, feeling inferior, feeling insulted, fearing that one will be ridiculed. When a person is feeling humiliated or when a person is afraid of being humiliated, he thinks in his mind, I will make myself a fool before others. I am not that good. So, others will make fun of me. My pronunciation may go wrong. I may slip. I may fumble. My organization may be made fun of. my whole content may be thought to be nonsensical. Now, once the person has this thing, and overall he has a feeling that at the end of it, he thinks that the result will be negative. He will be humiliated. He will be made to feel very low. So, this is the basic fear. The person thinks that by giving this, my self-respect will be injured. I will feel so bad that I'll regret that I gave a topic like this throughout my life. So, fear of humiliation, that's one fear that actually freezes the person even before entering to the stage. Okay, then generally people are not doing it or afraid of doing it because of the fact that they are unfamiliar with the situation. How about somebody sitting in the canteen and talking to his friend? How about somebody attending a party and chatting throughout to people in the party? In fact, the person may be going and sitting in each group and discussing with everybody, making jokes, making other people laugh, narrating stories, narrating incidences, and everybody is looking forward to this person to come and discuss these stories. Now, what's wrong with the person to come and talk before hundreds of people on a stage using a mic and creating a formal situation? What is wrong? Why the person is afraid is that the fact of the fear of something that is unfamiliar. What does it mean? The person is used to chatting with others, sitting with others in a group like situation which is informal. The environment, if it is canteen, it is fine. If it is somewhere in a garden, it is fine. If it is at the home, it's fine. But if it is to be in an auditorium, if it is in a classroom, if it is in a conference room, so then the person is so afraid because the whole situation is quite unfamiliar to him. He can deliver the same thing in a canteen, but not in a conference room. Could see the difference. So he's so used to canteen, he's so used to his own house, he's so used to talking to small groups in bus stops and all that. But these places are quite familiar. This is a place like canteen, he would go every day for having a cup of tea. But conference room is not the place where he goes every day. Auditorium is not the place where he goes every day. Maybe when he got the convocation degree, maybe when he finished his graduation, that was the first time he was inside the auditorium. Most of the times auditorium meant going and listening to somebody. It never meant the person being on the stage and delivering something. Now when this thing is there that he is not familiar with this place, it can also cloud one's thinking and feed lot of negativity in the mind. The person is psychologically thinking that I don't know, I'm not familiar, so why should I take risk? Fear of humiliation, fear of taking risk with a kind of situation that is unfamiliar, this is second. Followed by this, the fear that something would go wrong. I'm not so thoroughly prepared. I don't know, I'm not that experienced. I may do something and I may mess up and something would go wrong. Now, these are general perceptions, mostly misconceptions or perceptions coming out of misconceptions, which I'll clear subsequently in the next few slides. Now, once you know what is it that is causing this fear, and in terms of delivering a public speaking or giving oral presentation, this fear is called as stage fright. Literally and figuratively, the kind of fear that you get it on stage. So, stage fright. Fear is not there when you sit among the small group in the class when the teacher is not there, and then you feel like talking so much. When the teacher has come and then the teacher is asking you to come out and say a few words in 10 minutes, the fear has come. Why? You are just on the podium, you are on the stage where the teacher is there. So that stage fright that literally and metaphorically comes when you are asked to present something on the stage is something you need to overcome. And how do you do that? The first mantra, the first formula is that you should be confident. Now, easily said and very hard to practice it, very hard to smile when inside you are feeling very bad, and inside your stomach you feel that butterflies are flying, and then you are supposed to keep a kind of countenance that is quite cheerful. Now, be confident, and throughout this lecture, this module, I'm going to tell you you should be confident, and I'm going to address this issue through various corners by giving lot of interesting examples, by trying to attack this fact through various corners. So I'm just going to emphasize on this, that be confident. Now, how can you be confident? There's something I'm going to discuss. But the fact that if you can just imagine that you're a confident person and then you're not afraid of things if it would go wrong, or if people are going to humiliate you, and that you are in a confident frame of mind, that begets further confidence. So first and foremost is you should visualize, imagine, pretend, behave and act as if you are confident. Now, followed by this, you should have a positive self-image. What do I mean by this? Your fear of humiliation comes only when you have a very low self-esteem about yourself. Have a very positive self-image. Imagine that it's you and only you who can go and deliver that presentation, nobody else. Maybe somebody is much better than you in terms of fluency of expression. Felicity of expression is something that God has given to that person. But then you have something that you may not be talk like that person in terms of language. You may not be able to use body language just like the other person. You may not even be as charming as the other person, but there is something in you which, when you go and talk, you are able to do the thing called spell binding. You can keep the audience spellbound, as if you have cast a magic word. You say something and the audience are just listening to you, as if you have struck them with some kind of awe, some kind of wonder. Your ideas are hitting them, so you're getting across them. Your mind is going very clearly to them. So there are other skills other than just making some cosmetic appearance and then making it appealing to the audience. There is something in everybody that can always appeal to the audience, if only the person is willing to manifest that something, that ability to tell a story, something, that ability to give a very good and successful presentation. If only the person is willing to do that, and to do that, one should have a very positive self-image. One should think very highly of oneself, although with all humility, one should not show it out on the face, but one should have very good opinion about oneself, and the image one has in one's mind is positive. I may make mistakes, no problem. People, let them laugh at me because I'm a beginner. But a day will come, I will have the last laugh. So the same people who laugh at me will definitely come and prize for the kind of efforts that I have taken, for the kind of lecture that I have delivered, for the presentation that I have given. People will realize that I have really taken pains. So if you have that positive frame of mind, combined with the fact that you should never underestimate yourself. So avoid self underestimation. On the one hand, people sometimes become overconfident, thinking that they can do better, but actually they fail to perform. So this is kind of over promising and under delivering, which should not be done at all. But on the other hand, there are people who have great capabilities, but because of the environment in which they are brought up, they are conditioned to think that they are inferior, they do not have talent at all, and they cannot bring themselves together and cohere their ideas to give a kind of oral presentation that is required in a formal situation. Now, because of this, they try to underestimate when they should have actually thought very high of themselves. So, what happens? Great talent, just because of this underestimation that I will not be able to do such things. So, that actually deprives of the person to actually take a chance, to try once. So, completely try to remove this underestimating feeling. So, even if it is in some case, it can be even like a complex. So, if that is the case, it's worth consulting a good psychiatrist and getting away from this complex. Keep your mind clear. Begin as a clean slate with a positive frame of mind, with the feeling that you will do, you can do, and you will be confident. Then, why does this underestimation comes? Why is there a poor self-image, or why there is a lot of negativity? Usually it comes when the person tries to compare oneself with others. So avoid comparing you at any cost with others. There is always 10 other better people to do the job that you have just done. However perfect you have done it, however good you have worked for it, however hard you have been working for years, there are 10 other people who could have done better than you. 10 nowadays is less number. There may be 50, there may be 100 in certain job. There may be millions of others who could always do the job better than you. But then there are thousands of others, there are millions of others who can't even do the job to the level that you have done, or who can't even think of doing it, who can't even reach that level, who can't even come to the stage. You developed courage to come to the stage, you had a proper plan, you worked for it, you came and delivered it. So do not think of somebody who could have done it much better than you. Obviously the person didn't do it. Okay, the person could have done it better, but the fact is you're doing it and that person is not doing it. So do not make any comparison thinking that, oh, if that person would have done this, would have done it much better than me. So that thinking is going to mar your presentation. It will destroy your presentation. The confidence that you will have in your presentation, that will kill it. So don't have that kind of thinking. Not only to compare yourself with somebody, even in terms of underestimating, or even in terms of overestimating. So do not even think, oh, that guy so bad, I am doing much better than him. So neither this kind nor that kind, neither comparing yourself to somebody who is weaker than you nor somebody who is stronger than you. Do not have that comparison. Each public performance, which I'll talk about later, any kind of public performance, whether it is group discussion or interview or oral presentation, in each of the public performance, the self is involved and self development is part of that process. So in later when we go to discuss about interview skills, I'll be actually talking about some theory in which people say that every performance that you undertake, every time you attend an interview, every time you participate in a group discussion, every time you give an oral presentation, there is something that is added to your personality, some plus is given to you. You have gained an experience that no money can compensate. You have become stronger than before. And there is something called self-actualization. You are starting from one stage and you are moving to another stage. So all these public performances can be of great help in that sense. So do not underestimate, do not compare yourself with others, but be determined to do something about this fear. Be determined. Keep that firm in your mind that come what may, I'll try to overcome this fear. I'll do something, but then I'll completely remove this fear. Now, with that frame of mind, start practicing at a very small informal level. If you are quite comfortable in the canteen like situation, give the same presentation that you are going to give before 500 people tomorrow in an auditorium. Now give it before 5 people in the canteen. Give the same presentation. It's a mock presentation, but you are giving before a familiar group and in a very familiar environment. Do that at your home. Do that in the dining room with your close family members. Give the same presentation. Seek their feedback. Do the practice in your own room before a mirror, but practice at very small informal level before you actually do that in a formal level on the stage. Now, these things first and foremost will help you to overcome stage fear. Now, when you are attempting all these ones, keep in mind there is a particular hormone that secretes in our body when we are in tight situations. It's called as adrenaline. And you remember, this adrenaline secretes only during fight or flight response, or only when you want to give fight or flight response, and it secretes in that fight or flight situations. I should explain this fight or flight situation in detail. What is it, and is it something that all of us undergo? Yes, of course. What is it? Now, fight or flight. Fight is to confront that situation. Flight is to run away from that situation. Now, imagine a hypothetical situation in which you are on a road, on a street, and suddenly there is a power failure. So, suddenly the road is darkened and it is a moonless night. So, since it's a moonless night, there is no visibility, you don't have a torch. So, you are walking carefully and you are thinking of something, and you put your foot on something which is like a rope. For a moment you thought it's a rope, but then you've realized that the rope is trying to move or wriggle out, and to your utter shock, you realize, and at the same time the power comes and you see that it's a deadly cobra. Okay, it's a snake. It's a deadly poisonous snake. You put your foot on it. Now, this is a typical fight or flight situation. Now, what do you choose to do? There is nobody, no help around. Either you fight with the situation or you run away from the situation. You thought that it's a rope, but it's a snake. And it's not just a snake, it's a deadly, dangerous snake. One flicker of a second, you make a mistake, it's going to bite, it's going to kill you. Now, you have just that fraction of second to decide. Now, at this time, it's more your psychological makeup, it's more your emotion than your actual mind, than actual presence of mind telling you to do something. Now, this is the time adrenaline secretes. Now, what does this hormone do at this point? It will help you to do both. It will help you to fight, or it will help you to run away from the situation. It helps even in flight. So, I heard about one student who put his foot on the snake, and then in fear he ran without looking back. He ran so fast. He was slightly a fat person, but he ran so fast with great difficulty, but that difficulty was not in his mind. And then by the time he looked back, he had reached about 4 kilometers from the spot. Because he was so afraid, he ran so much, and he all the time imagined that the snake was chasing him, and he didn't have the courage to look back. So after 4 kilometers, he stopped and then he looked back, and that was just the time he realized that he has gone outside the town, and now there is no bus, no auto, no means of transport that would take back to his place. He walked back, every step was painful. He wondered, how could I run 4 kilometers just like that? Okay, and in about 12 to 15 minutes, how could I do that so fast? How could I do? And a person who is so lazy, who was not even walking short distances. Now, how could the person do that? The obvious secret is that adrenaline pumped in at that moment and it helped him to run fast. Just like it's functioning just like a drug, like a food supplement that would energize at that moment, and at that life killing or life saving moment, it helps, it pumps in. Now, there is also another situation where another student who happened to put his foot on the snake and he had the so called Hawaii slipper or bathroom slipper. It's of that rubber foam kind of slipper. It doesn't have that much strength, that much rigidity, but he took that slipper and he hit the snake with such tremendous force that the snake died on the spot. Now, there was no stone around, only the slipper was in his hand. He was just beating the snake again and again, vehemently, forcefully, so powerfully. Otherwise, he is a very lean guy, and how did he gather that much strength of mind and physical stamina? It's again adrenaline. It also helped him during this situation where he decided to confront. Now, when I am saying this, why did I try to illustrate this so extensively? Relate this situation to public speaking. Mind you, I said at the beginning that people are afraid of public speaking even over the fear of snakes. Now, when it is on the top, so you know adrenaline will secrete much more than a situation where you are putting your foot on the snake. And you are endowed with the courage, or it will also support you to do something in that fear when you want to run away from the situation. But if you choose to fight, if you choose to confront, it will help you. How would it help you? It will bring the patent vocabulary, okay, very actively. Some vocabulary that you have kept passive in your mind, it will activate. People wonder, how could you use those words so wonderfully? So, even you didn't know that you used it so appropriately. So, when you decide to confront the situation, adrenaline helps. So, why don't you confront? Why don't you fight instead of just running away from public speaking? And then, people generally think that if I go and deliver the talk and I am nervous, my hands are shaking, legs are shaking, so that people among the audience will be watching me. Now, remember, people are buried in their own thoughts and insecurities. And when you go and tell somebody, so I was so nervous, my legs were shaking, so they'll be surprised. I didn't see that, I didn't note it. Very often you will find that you wear a new dress and go and stand before somebody. The person doesn't note that you are wearing a new dress. You keep asking, do you find any change? The person doesn't note anything. The reason is the person is worried in his own world, he is worried about his own insecurities. And generally people do not have time to observe your nervousness. In a situation where students are giving presentations one by one, when the first student is giving, the next student is worried about his own presentation and he is nervous about his presentation and he is not concerned about anybody else's nervousness. So, keep this in mind, and then I'll just give you more tips about developing confidence and then becoming a professional in terms of oral presentation. Are there some secrets to banishing fear? Yes and no, because first of all, they are not secrets. Secondly, even if they are secrets, they are just open secrets. They are of course known to everybody, and it's just like a practical wisdom that I am going to pass it to you in terms of some capsule like form which we can call as secrets. If you know them, and if you practice them, you definitely banish fear. What would be the first secret of banishing fear? As I said at the beginning, know your subject. Now, it's not just knowing your subject. When I say know your subject, when I say know, I'm saying know in the philosophical Socratic sense of know that thoroughly. Have absolute control over the subject, be a master of the subject, and even if you know very less in terms of quantity, try to know that thoroughly. Once, when Mark Twain was asked to give an impromptu speech, so an impromptu speech is just for, he was asked to give for 3 minutes. So he was just asked to give a 3 minute speech. Impromptu is a very informal speech. You give it without any preparation. He said he needed 3 days preparation time. Such an eminent writer, such a person known for his humor and oratorical skills, when he was asked to give something for 3 minutes, he said, I need 3 days time for preparation. Why did he need 3 days time? One, whatever he wanted to speak, he wanted to know that thoroughly. Second, he also wanted to practice it. So the first point that I would tell you as a kind of secret that is revealed to you is know your subject. Do not attempt to give any presentation without knowing the subject. Now, how is this linked with confidence? Now, your fear is something that is inherent with your knowledge. If you know the subject 100% and if you are very sure that there's nobody who can ask you any questions in this subject and you are the master in it, absolutely you are fearless. It's only when you are afraid that, oh, I've read this only 40%, but then there are others who know about this subject much more than me, and then they can corner me, they can ask any questions. It's only when you have that insecurity about your knowledge, then you are afraid. So if you know the subject and know it thoroughly, so then automatically the confidence level increases. Now, is it enough just if you know your subject? It's just not enough. You should also believe in your subject. Suppose you are talking about an issue and then, or you are proposing a new idea. It's not enough that you just know the subject in an informative sense and then you are trying to disseminate that subject just as an information. It's much more important that you believe in the subject. Suppose it's a person who says that today I'm going to talk about the emancipation of women in India, and if he is the person who happens to beat his wife, beat his sister, quarrel with all the female colleagues in his office environment, he actually obviously doesn't believe in what he is going to tell. So take a topic that really concerns you and a topic that you will have belief and put your heart and soul while delivering it. So that belief will again increase your confidence level. Combined by this, the next secret is to practice. And not just practice, 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 practice. Any aspect of communication skill, whether it is enhancing your vocabulary, whether it is participating in group discussion or training yourself to become a good candidate for interview or public speaking or giving oral presentation, any aspect of communication skills is something that is built throughout one's life. It's a lifetime skill that has to be learned, nurtured, developed, enhanced, honed as and when possible. So practice, practice, practice. In this limited sense of giving an oral presentation, at least if you are given time, so ask for time for preparation. People would very much appreciate. Instead of giving something in a haphazard manner, you tell them that you need some time. So people will appreciate and get the time. The moment you get time, suppose next week, next Monday is the presentation and you are told about this Friday, utilize all time, keep that complete weekend for the first preparation. Then start practicing and continue with the practice as much as possible. Do not be satisfied if one group of your friends are very happy with your presentation. Go to somebody who doesn't know anything about your presentation. Give it before somebody whom generally other people consider as weak students. Give the presentation before them. See whether you are able to appeal to them. See whether you are clear enough to them. Seek their opinion. Get their feedback. Compile all the feedback and try to build up the confidence that will come out of the fact that you are so thorough. Not only thorough, you have enough belief, not only belief in that, but also you have practiced enough and you got good feedback. Now, overall, if you ask me, how would you reduce this anxiety? Now, in order to reduce your anxiety, which is combined with fear, the first and foremost thing before you go for giving oral presentation is visualize your delivery. And when I say visualize your delivery, I am just saying that visualize that you are getting standing ovation. So people are not just clapping, but they are just standing and praising you, just they are clapping. So visualize that kind of great success that will follow your presentation. So visualize your delivery, not the process, not the nervousness that will come before you enter the stage. Don't focus on that, but visualize the delivery, visualize the result. What will happen after you finish the presentation? How would people respond to that? Would you become so famous after delivering that? If it is yes, then why should you be nervous about it, and why should you try to let that nervousness interfere more and destroy your presentation? Won't you regret once you know that people are praising you so much that you have actually let your presentation marred by your unwanted, unwarranted negative feelings? So visualize your delivery, the result product, and visualize in a very positive frame of mind that you are going to get standing ovation. And I repeat, know your subject, know the subject thoroughly. This will again reduce your anxiety and build up your confidence. And once you know that, respect preparation. As I said, Mark Twain needed days of time just for minutes of impromptu speech. If that is the case, if you are asked to give, let us say, 1 hour presentation, you need more than 10 days minimum to give a good presentation. And there are people who are preparing for about months to give the same kind of presentation. When I say this, don't overdo, over prepare also, but I am just also cautioning that don't under prepare, prepare enough, sufficiently enough, and in case you tend to over prepare, keep that extra preparation for the discussion round, or keep that under some questions that would come after the presentation. So prepare enough, prepare sufficiently, and respect that preparation part. However thorough you are in the subject, without preparation, there is a chance that you may make a fool of yourself. How many times you have seen eminent professors, eminent speakers, sometimes messing up their speech just because they came with a lot of notes, but the notes are not arranged in proper order. And then they start saying something and then they think, oh, where I have left that? So where is that page? And one page flies this side. So he runs to take that one. Coherence is lost. Audience control is lost. The audience who are spellbound in the first 2 minutes, they start murmuring, they start dispersing. Somebody thinks he would go out for drinking water. Somebody wants to have a cigarette. Somebody wants to have tea. So they are just dispersed. He lost control over the audience just because he didn't respect preparation. So respect preparation and then practice presentation. I just said before in the previous slide, practice the presentation because you develop much more confidence in that practice. I will also in details about all these things. And when you do all these things, relax your mind. What do I mean by this? Relax your mind. Don't do that with lot of stress. Don't do that with tension. Relax your mind. Do it with a calm thinking. Do it with a level-headed thinking. So relax your mind, and last but not the least, respect your audience. In fact, when I say know your subject, it goes hand in hand that you should also know your audience when you are going to give that presentation. Which level should you address? Is it to somebody who has not even completed 10th standard? Let us say a topic about internet. If you are going to talk to somebody who has just reached 5th standard, the level is different. Somebody who has come up to 10th standard and has computer as a subject and internet as an extra kind of practical activity, the person will be much more receptive. And if you are talking to some BTech students in engineering institutions about internet, so you better be cautious, because the students may know much better than you. So respect your audience, assess the level, and not only in that sense that you respect the audience, but also respect your audience in terms of the time that they are giving you. They have decided to travel, they have decided to give you that time. It may be 10 minutes, it may be 1 hour, but that's a precious time that they are giving it to you, and respect that time. Do not digress, do not meander, do not bluff, do not put things which they do not need at all. But just because you don't have any material, do not bore them with materials which should not be used in your discussion at all. So plan accordingly, keeping the audience in mind. Now once you do that, how do you muster up your courage? How do you build up confidence? Now muster up courage and build up your confidence by remembering, especially if you are a student, and then if you are presenting your presentation among so many other students, and then let's say your teacher or the instructor or the lecturer happens to be the examiner, or there is a panel that is assessing you. In a case where you have already given a project report and then you are giving an oral presentation of that report, and whatever time, it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes. Now when you are going to give that, remember that you are presenting to your friends. They are not your enemies who are sitting there. They are your classmates, and most of the classmates are your friends. So first have that thinking that they are my friends. Of course, there may be 1 or 2 who may be your rivals, who do not think like you, who are not like-minded people, but there are other ways to tackle them. If you are thoroughly prepared in the subject, they will be automatically controlled. They themselves will have their own nervousness. They will be afraid of asking you a question because they know that you have the capability to humiliate them. You may not use it, but they have the fear that you have the capability to humiliate them by giving very sharp and correct, accurate answer. So do not worry about those people once you are thoroughly prepared. But you think of your student group in the classroom as your friends. So after all, they are your friends. Okay. Then once your presentation is over, your friend is going to give the presentation. So remember that you are all in this together. You are all sailing on the same boat. So all are going to have the same experience. So you are not an alien in that kind of situation. So everybody is undergoing the same situation. So why should you be worried about it? Okay. Then as long as you prepare properly, your examiners will realize this from your performance and reward you accordingly. What do I mean by this? Even if you go wrong, even if you slip, even if you forget something, okay, something that you wanted to tell so seriously but then you forgot. Even if you do that, once the examiners know that you have prepared thoroughly, even if your worst enemy is sitting there and putting a question that has embarrassed you and that has made you feel so humiliated, and you feel that you should have tackled that much better, But the fact that you have thoroughly prepared and given a decently good presentation, the examiners will be noting it. Your future is depending on the marks, the credits that the examiners are going to give. So why should you be unnecessarily bothered about some criticism which would obviously come from your own friend circle? So keeping that in mind, when the examiners are going to realize that you have prepared thoroughly, you have prepared properly, so do not worry about what other criticisms will come. Focus on this. Then, as far as keeping a calm mind, it's a physical aspect. Most of the times, emotionally, we are conditioned in our thinking. Psychologically, we let our mind cloud with that negativity. But physically, breathe deeply. So, even before going, take a deep breath and release it. Take 2-3 deep breaths. Now, taking that deep breath will calm your nerves, soothe your mind. So, breathe deeply before getting into that podium stage, and even before taking the first breath, deep, have a very deep breath, and then you start. Now, one more thing you should know, all of us have nervousness, but you should know that the first few minutes are the worst. Even Laurence Olivier, the most famous Shakespearean actor, so when he was asked whether he was nervous about giving that 100th performance, he said that any performance, whether it is 100 or 1000 performance, he would have fear, that stage fright, first few minutes. So a veteran, a seasoned actor like Laurence Olivier will have for first few minutes. What about you? So that is something that is there. But understand the fact that the first few minutes are the worst ones. Once you put yourself before the audience, once you know that you have overcome that first few minutes, use that first few minutes for introducing yourself, telling something which is very normal and routine like. And then once you overcome that first few minutes, you have gained control. Now you have gained control over the audience, and then give your actual delivery. The delivery that's going to get you standing ovation. So now, having said all these things, I would just conclude this lecture with this point in mind, that you keep in mind that this is going to give you standing ovation, and I'll continue with giving you more tips in the next lecture, which will also talk about the same oral presentation, but we will intensely look at various stages of presentation, and slowly we'll move on to the stage where you will be becoming a professional presenter. So till then, thank you and bye. Keep thinking over these points, keep practicing. Thank you once again.